Hello, hello, hello. Hello, hello, hello. Mosaic Souls. Hey, Mosaic Souls. This is Rachael Alexander, artist and Mosaic Soul mentor, aka spiritual teacher and transformational coach with flair. And I'm super excited to talk about today's topic. I'm like super stoked. As always, feel free to chime in. Let me know, you know, where you're from, your name. Let me know if you're joining me live. I'd love to also interact with you. So a bit of housekeeping before I dive into this topic that I'm super excited to talk about. I'm so excited. I feel like every day I'm excited to talk about stuff because every day is like I get to work with clients, and it's just always fun to like help people and give back to my community, one, but also help you establish sort of baseline for creating transformation in your own life. Okay, so house rules. The whole purpose of Divine Daily Coaching is for me to not only give back, but also to help give you the tools that you desire and need in order to create breakthroughs in your own life, but also to see what it's like to actually work with a coach, right? If that's the path that you choose to take or not, regardless, everything's okay. But to see what it's like to work with a coach. And so what I do is I get on here live for about 10 to 20 minutes and chat about the topic at hand, usually listed underneath the actual video. And then afterwards, I invite you to come on live with me and tell me, discuss any problems or any issues that you are, any pieces that you're feeling stuck around in your own lives and or businesses that you want, or health that you want to create transformation or breakthrough. And then we sort of talk about it live here on my channel so that you can create the health, wellness, and life and business that you desire. Okay, so that's what that is. If you are looking to book a session with me, I am gifting 30-minute sessions for the month of December only. It is a 30-minute session where we get on and we work through anything that you're feeling stuck around. Check out the link in the description box below after the live. I don't think I put it in this one, but all my other lives have the link. It's the first link. It'll be the first link that you can book that session. And if you're looking to actually work with me in any of my programs, then definitely check out the second link or go to divineearthschool.com to divineearthschool.com/call. Okay, so now that the house stuff is all taken care of, let's dive into this topic. Okay, why am I super excited about this topic? Mainly because this is one of the main things that holds people back from receiving their desires. And when you start to recognize and bring, one of my favorite quotes is by Stephen Covey, and he says, I'm looking down at my notes if you're wondering. He says, awareness builds its own momentum, right? So what does he mean by that? When you start to bring awareness to any area of your life or any basically any area of your life, it starts to create forward momentum. It creates a ripple effect. When you don't know what you don't know, then how can you create transformation, right? How can you change, right? But when you start to bring awareness to it, then that creates a ripple effect, because then you have free will and you have a knowing of whether or not you are going to move forward with changing your life in whatever capacity that works for you, or whether or not you are going to stay the same. The choice is then in your hands versus you being sort of a victim of life. So that's why I love what I'm going to talk about, which is the 7 main fears that are really holding you back from success, creating success in your life, or holding you back from receiving your desires or achieving your desires, right? So let's talk about the first fear, okay? The first main fear that a lot of people struggle with when it comes to creating transformation in any area of their lives, usually it's the main 3: health, relationships, and or business, career, all that stuff, right? The first one is fear of failure, right? And fear of failure is the common one of, I'm going to lump some under each one, but the main one is when you're afraid to try something because you're afraid that you'll fail at it. You're afraid that, you'll be made look like a fool, or maybe let's say, that you won't be good at it and all this other stuff, right? That kind of ties into some other fears. But fear of failure is one of the main reasons why we don't go after, or we don't even energetically shift internally to even start to dream up new possibilities for our lives, right? So just fear of failure. And I want to give an example of this one, right? When I had a full-time job, one of my coworkers really wanted to move out of that position. He had been working there for like 3 or so years. And as a main provider of his home or whatever, he had built up in his mind, one, that he was too old, right? That he was too old to start something new, and two, that he would fail at it, or that he wouldn't be able to achieve, starting a new career or something like that, or even venturing out. And that, because he was the main breadwinner in his family, he didn't want to fail, because he didn't want to fail his family, right? So he didn't want to be broken out on the streets, but he didn't even entertain the idea of trying something new or opening that door. So he just sort of shut down his dreams and sort of kind of stayed in, not necessarily mediocrity. Everything is a-okay. We're all here for a plethora of experiences, but he didn't even allow his heart to venture there. So that's sort of an example of a fear of failure. There's many ways that it can show up. Trying to, not trying, but like practicing or moving into the space of allowing a new love relationship into your life. Maybe you've been hurt a gajillion times, and the idea of even opening your heart to allow another person into your life freaks you the heck out. And you're like, I don't want another failed relationship, right? So that's another way that it can show up in the sort of, so I talked about career and then health, relationships. Another way of saying health, fear of failure. Let's say you've been on the roller coaster ride of diets and stuff like that, and so you're just tired of it all, and you're tired of failing every time you try a diet because you keep falling, quote unquote, falling off the wagon. And so you just been up and resigned to even, trying to get back to being healthy or in a state of well-being, right? Fear of failure because of previous experiences has sort of tainted and sort of colored and made you jaded towards health and well-being, right? So those are sort of 3 examples of fear of failure. Okay, I'm not gonna give an example of all of this because I'm gonna be on here for like hours, so I don't want, but I just want to kind of give examples of failure. If you're live, feel free to say hi. The second main fear is fear of pain, okay? So fear of pain. So the way that this shows up is it shows up in the way of fear of missing out, the whole FOMO movement, right? Or fear of death. So I'm lumping these under fear of pain, right? So pain. Hey, Miss Cherokee, what's up? So I'm lumping this all under the fear of pain, okay? So we have fear of missing out, FOMO, we have death, we have poverty, and we have old age, right? So I'm lumping all those 4 keys under fear of pain, right? So a lot of times we don't want to, we have a fear of doing something that we love to do or moving towards our heart's desire because we feel like there's going to be pain involved, right? There's going to be a sense of, maybe I'm, if I miss out on something, there's going to be pain. Like I'm going to be sort of not with the crowd, or I won't have achieved that thing. I'll have this sense of regret, right? That sort of pain or fear of death, right? Trying something new, and it doesn't necessarily have to be like actual death, but it can be other like sort of ego deaths too. Fear of poverty, right? That's a huge one for a lot of people. It's very connected to that fear of failure one that I talked about before. I'm giving that example with the career one, feeling like if I start a new career or I start a new path or something like that, then I'll be broke and poor, right? Like I know a lot of artists who turn into business and stuff like that, move away from art because they feel like art, the whole old adage of, poverty with being an artist and stuff, which is total BS, right? And then fear of old age, fear of, getting too old or being too old to do something. Well, I'm too old to do something. Or I've had that so many times where I've met people, I'm like, girl, I'm 50 something. I'm too old to start something new. Well, I'm like, have you already picked out your plot of burial or something? Like, have you already picked out where they're going to bury you and stuff? So why are you acting like you dead already? Like, you're not dead until you say you dead. And there's this other quote, I can't remember who said this, but there's this other quote by this other person, and they talked about most people die at the age of 25, but get buried at the age of 75. And when I heard that, it totally resonated with me because our society, we're also programmed to stop following our hearts. Like, we're supposed to be realistic and choose one career path and do the same thing for the next 80 years. And that's totally fine if it's like your passion, and even if it's not, whatever. A lot of us have different awakenings. One of my other girlfriends, she had an awakening at like 45 and realized like the career that she had for the last 25 years was something that was a part of her passion, but she was shifting into a new role. And now she's like a spiritual teacher, right? So this idea that we're supposed to be set and doing something for the rest of our lives, right, in the whole career arena, with health, right, fear of pain, of trying something new, right, like, well, if I have to try like smoothies, and I'm gonna have to give up my coffee, or I'm gonna have to, this sort of fear that, there's a pain associated with it, right? So that's like the second one. The third one is the fear of being alone. And this is super huge. Actually, okay. I actually believe my life should be on hold until I retire. I know that's such a common, Miss Cherokee who just shared with me. I know that was me. I actually believe my life should be on hold until I retire, right? That's such a common belief, right? Like, that's such a common belief that, I'm going to do these things, X, Y, Z, right? And then once I retire, then I'll finally get a chance to live my life. And a lot of people are starting to wake up out of that and choose different pathways. So there's no right or wrong pathway, but it's that sort of old paradigm is definitely starting to shed, right? Which is a beautiful thing. Like I said, the third one is being alone, not being loved. I'm putting this all under fear of being alone. So not being loved, being understood or accepted, or not belonging. This is a huge one too. And I have this happen a lot with some of my health coaching clients, right? Sometimes we are addicted to certain levels or certain struggles or things in our lives, because we feel that if we change, that we will no longer belong to our little huddle or our little group of whoever, right? Whether we will no longer belong to our family group or will be shunned, right? Like, I remember when I decided to start going vegan, I'm no longer, I don't claim that label anymore. But when I first initially started, I'm more so plant-based. But when I initially started going vegan, like 10 plus years ago, I had a slight fear, not really, but like there was a slight fear of, being chastised or whatever. I'm sort of a strong-headed Aries kind of nature, so it wasn't really that much of a fear. But that sense of belonging, right? Changing my diet means I can no longer eat certain meals with my family anymore, right? So I'm no longer a valued member or part of my social group, right? In the health thing, right? So that's one thing, that kind of example that comes to mind in my own life, of not being loved, right? How many times, I've heard of, I don't think I've had a client who's had this before. But I've definitely heard of other friends who've had clients where, they might be an entrepreneur or something like that, but their husband or wife or spouse or whatever is harping on them for, venturing out and doing something new, because they don't understand. Maybe they've had a job all their lives, and so they don't even understand the whole entrepreneurship, and so they sort of poo-poo on it. And so sometimes they'll hold back their dreams of pursuing something because they don't have a group of people, like-minded people around them to support them, right? So fear of not belonging, right, in your own little social group, or fear of being misunderstood. I spoke with another lady earlier this week who had a fear of being live and being visible, right? Like, she had no problem with coaching certain clients on the phone and stuff like that, and working with other people in her business. But when it came to actually getting on the camera and actually having to speak to people on live video, she would freeze up and freak out, or need something to like do something with her hands, because she had this fear of being misunderstood or looking kooky, right? Like, or not being accepted, right? And this so beautifully moves into the fourth one, is fear of being judged, right? Which is very similar to what the lady I was just mentioning was having an issue. Actually, it was two ladies. It was two ladies. There's one I spoke to, was it yesterday? Yesterday. And then another lady the day before. And they both have visibility issues, right? The first lady that I talked to was really scared of being judged, right? Of being criticized, of looking like a fool, right? Of rejection, right? So this is another huge one. This is the fourth one. It's a little bit slightly different from being alone, because being judged is very similar to being alone. You feel like you'll kind of like be not castrated. That's the wrong word. You'll be shunned from society, I guess is the word that I'm looking at, right? You'll be shunned from people, or people will laugh at you or say mean things in the comments and all that stuff. every time I get a thumbs down or some crazy person, let me just tell you, every time somebody says something crazy under my videos, because it's my channel, I have the right to ban that person or block them, or you know what I mean? Like, you could go be negative somewhere else, not on my channel, okay? So that's just how I feel about it. I don't have time for that. If you are feeling trapped by this fear, definitely check out my video where I talk about how to stop caring what other people think about you. But this is a huge fear that I know a lot of people struggle with. Fear of being judged, criticized, looking like a fool. You see me looking down, look at my list. Or fear of rejection, right? So that's the fourth one, okay? The fifth one is fear of inadequacy. And all these are really linked together, but they're just like different flavorings of the same fear, right? Fear of inadequacy, fear of feeling incompetent or being incompetent, or that feeling of not enoughness. Have you ever wanted to do something, but you felt like, well, I'm not smart enough to do that, right? Like, I definitely have been that. I remember when I first started health coaching, I was like, you know, there's so much when you're learning how to be a health coach. There's so many things about the body and how, you know, the hormones and all these different things that you learn in health coaching school. And it can feel overwhelming when you're just starting out, you know what I mean? And so when you're just starting out in something new, it can feel like, well, I'm incompetent. How am I supposed to know how to do X, Y, Z, right? How can I really help someone? You know, we think that we have to have all the answers, like we're supposed to be, you know, Google, you know, at all times and be able to answer everybody's undying questions. It's like, it's okay to not know, you know, everything at all times, right? So that sort of fear of inadequacy or fear of being incompetent, right? Of course, what we can do to sort of abate those fears is sort of start to make sure you cultivate whatever you're trying to or study or plan and execute around whatever you're trying to bring out into the world, and you feel competent enough to support others or whatever way. Usually incompetence and inadequacy or feeling like not enoughness comes around. Well, not enoughness can come around in the health, relationships, and career, but the inadequacy and competence usually comes with the whole career and relationships one. It can come in the health one too, but like with the not enoughness, that one's also shows up in with being in relationships, right? Feeling like maybe the person that you want to be with is not you're not enough for them, or yeah, am I saying that right? Yeah. You're not enough for them, or they're too good for you, or they're way ahead of you, or something like that, or stuff like that. Or maybe like you want to be friends with someone, but you feel like, why would they talk to me? Because I'm just little old me, blah, 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 blah. Right. So that fear of not enoughness, or feeling like you want to try something, but you're like, I mean, who am I to, you know, anytime that who am I to blah, 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 then you know that that fear of not enough or fear of inadequacy or fear of incompetence is playing out, right? So I've said 5. If you're joining me live, feel free to say hi. I hope this is making sense. Let me know in the chat if all these fears are making sense. But when you start to see these play out in your life, I mean, this is so empowering. When I first learned about these fears, it was sort of a divine download, but it was also sort of reading other things and books and doing my own whatever coaching course and stuff like that. It was so empowering because a lot of times I think I learned about these over 10 years ago. And I remember speaking to one of the people, and sort of I went to this convention and we're learning about how to be transformational coaches and stuff like that. And I remember talking to my partner because we had to sort of exchange our experiences and stuff like that. And I remember he talked about, yeah, like that's a huge one. Like the fear of being alone is such a huge one. And I remember like having such deep insights, like, oh, this is why we don't do what we love to do, or we are not creating the lives and businesses that we want. If you're joining me live, feel free to say hi. This is why we're not creating what we want. This is why we're not achieving the things that we want in our lives, because all these different flavors of fear, right? Like when you start to see all these different flavors of fear and bring awareness to them, then they can no longer cripple you. But if you don't know that that's what's going on, then you become a victim of the different flavors of fear. So let me go into the 6th one. The 6th fear is, well, let me do a quick recap. The first fear is failure, fear of failure. The second one is fear of pain. The third one is fear of being alone. The 4th one is fear of being judged. And the 5th one is fear of inadequacy. And the 6th one is fear of success, right? So it's the opposite of fear of failure. I'm gonna get back to you, Miss Cherokee. The fear of success and fear of change. fear of the unknown and no, sorry. The fear of success and fear of change is the sixth one, right? So when you're afraid to succeed, what does that look like? Usually, this moves beautifully into the seventh one, which is the fear of the unknown and fear of uncertainty. Usually, when we're afraid to actually succeed, it's because we're afraid of change, right? Which is connected to the fear of success. We're scared of like moving out of our comfort zone. We're scared of trying something new, or we're scared of what other people will think about us, or we're afraid, like I talked about, and I can't remember which one of my other Divine Daily Coachings, but we're afraid of losing something, right? Afraid of what we will lose versus what we stand to gain, right? So that fear of change or fear of success is how that shows up. And then the last one is fear of the unknown and fear of certainty. As humans, we don't really like change because, oh no, okay. My battery's low. Okay. But we don't really like change because historically, like back in the times when we had to fend for our own food and had to like fight off tigers and dragons and all this stuff, tigers and dragons. I crack myself up sometimes. When we had to fight off and like, be out in the woods and stuff, right? We had like the unknown was not a good thing. You don't want to not be in the know of what's going on or what's lurking around the corner. So on a human level, like our evolution, our biology is designed to want to be in the know, because when it's safety there. There's a sense of safety, right? So that the sort of reptilian brain that we have wants to be in the know, because when we are in the know, it allows us to be safe and to survive and to pass down our genes, right? So that's how that shows up, right? So fear of the unknown and fear of certainty, which we don't really need to worry about that anymore, you know what I mean? Unless you're living in a third world country or war, fearing for third world country where you do need to worry about your life. But I figure if you are living in that kind of country, you're not watching my lives. So, but like in general, right? Like we don't, for those of us in, non-third world countries or who have cell phones and stuff like that and walk around and have jobs and houses and toilets and running water, we don't usually worry about those types of things anymore, right? So the fear of unknown and uncertainty sort of shows up in the way of us not wanting to try something new or not wanting to venture down a different path because it's new to us and we feel like we'll be inadequate or we'll be incompetent or maybe we might fail. And so all those other fears start to pop up, right? So those are the 7 fears. I'm going to get back to you, Miss Cherokee. I want to just do a really quick recap. The first fear is fear of failure. The second fear is fear of pain, FOMO, death, poverty, old age, right? Fear of missing out. The third one is the fear of being alone. And this shows up as not being loved or being misunderstood or accepted or not belonging, right? The fourth one is fear of being judged, being criticized, looking like a fool, or fear of rejection. And the fifth one is fear of inadequacy, fear of feeling incompetent or fear of not enoughness. I'm going to block this person. Remove report. Okay, cool. See, look at me just getting a spammer. Block. Okay, next. And the fifth one, what was I on? I can't remember. Judge, criticize. Okay, sixth one is fear of success and change. And the seventh one is fear of the unknown and certainty. Okay, so if you have any questions, definitely pop them in the chat below in regards to these fears. I know that hopefully they were as enlightening and transformational for you as they were for me to share them with you. Cherokee, they are definitely making sense. I just shared this with a coworker who was telling me tonight she has a fear of taking these job offers she keeps getting. Nice. So look at you being a coach already. So I'm curious as to what was her fear around taking the job offers. But is there anything that you want to share, Miss Cherokee, in regards to, and if you're joining me live, I just talked about the 7 main fears that are holding you back from success or holding you back from achieving your desires. Feel free to, now I'm opening the floor for any relevant questions in regards to the content that I just shared, or in regards to fear, or in regards to anything specific, a topic in your life that you want to kind of discuss and move through. And if not, that's also fine. But I'm just going to be quiet and let you guys type if there are any questions. That was a mouthful. That was so much fun. I really enjoy talking about that. And I definitely, it's so funny when you discover this. It's like, I don't know, it's like mining for gold for me. It's like, oh, because I'm so like in tune and so empathic and so aware of my emotional state of being all the time and other people's emotional state of being. Starting to be able to give them labels that are sort of relevant helps you to sort of peel back the layers and sort of bust through any blocks so you can move forward with what you're trying to do in your life. And that's why this content is super exciting for me. And I love like sharing on these topics. So if no one has any questions, I am going to hop off in the next few minutes. I'll give it another minute or so. Yes, I am learning to embrace my fears this year, one of which is leaving my job, but I am slowly moving in that direction. Slow but steady. Yes, exactly. I love that. Embrace your fear. Feel the fear and do it anyway, right? That kind of old saying. Yeah, and I love that you say slow and steady, right? Because that's what I really love is sort of sustainable transformation. Because a lot of times when we have a recognition or bring awareness around something, we want to change it right away. Like, okay, tomorrow I'm going to be a new person. It's like, well, it took you 30, 40, 50 years to get to be this version of you now. Not saying that it'll take you another 30, 40 years, right? Especially if you work with a coach or do this sort of work that I'm talking about. But give yourself a little time. And that's something I had to learn because I was such like Speedy Gonzalez with everything that I do. Because I used to be such a Speedy Gonzalez, and that has been my lesson this year is the slow and steady part, Cherokee. So I definitely resonate with you there. Cappy, welcome, Cappy369. I'm fear of breaking this addiction to pharmaceuticals. I'm scared of getting sick. Well, I definitely advise you to seek medical help as far as breaking an addiction to pharmaceuticals, right? Maybe someone who's like more on the naturopathic side, right? So I'm not really sure what your issue is and why you're taking pharmaceutical drugs, but I definitely recommend you to seek a medical professional, maybe more down the natural side of things to help you slowly ease off if that is your desire. But I'm not really sure what you're taking or what your situation is. So I can't really help you there. Let me see. It actually feels good, like you said yesterday when you auditioned for the band. Yeah, right? Yeah. What was I talking about? Yeah, I remember when I auditioned for a band and I was like super scared because there are like all these cats in there, like all these, it was like, okay, I'm gonna sound whatever. There's all these like white dudes in there who were like mad, like talented at the guitar, right? And I'm like this black girl, this young black chick who's just learning, not just learning to play the guitar, but like just learning jazz chords and all this stuff, right? And all these cats are like ripping on the guitar, and I was like, oh my goodness, I don't know if I'm ever going to get to their level, right? That fear of feeling incompetent, fear, that's where it was coming up. Fear of not necessarily failure, because I knew that if I put in the time and effort, like it would become familiar, but fear of being judged by them, and then fear of being incompetent and inadequate and like holding the group back, right? Because I was sort of the newbie of the group, right? So I definitely, those were those fears. Those were those fears indeed. Miss Cherokee, did you finally get to finish your living room? I know you said you're gonna do that the other night. Let me see. But yeah, that is all I have to share with you guys today. If you have any other questions, feel free to post them below this video and let me know what is one fear that you have become aware of in your own life that you are starting to traverse and transcend almost each night I'm in working on it. That's what's up. Steady bit by bit. Slow and steady. I love that. I'm taking a page out of the tortoise. Have you ever heard the tortoise and the hare fable or fairy tale? I'm taking a page out of the tortoise's book. But anywho, thank you guys so much for joining me live. As always, flow with what feels good. Yeah, exactly. As always, flow with what feels good and let go of what doesn't, because remember, you are divine. You are a divine being, and your soul knows exactly what you came to explore and journey through. So vibrate higher, and remember, what you conceive is what you'll receive. What you expect is what you'll get. And however you feel is what will become real for you. So vibrate higher, and I will chat with you guys later. And remember, if you are looking for more one-on-one support, visit me at divineearthschool.com/call. You're so welcome. You're so welcome. And if you are looking to see what it's actually like to work with a coach without actually committing to it, definitely check out that first link that I'll put below the video to book a gifted session, a 30-minute session to actually sort of work through your own issues or whatever. I'm only doing that for the month of December. After that, I don't know if I'm ever going to do it again. So take advantage if that is something that you're interested in. And you guys have a wonderful evening. Peace, love, and light. Mwah. Have a great night. Peace, love, and light.